Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits' first ever inspiration event. My name is Kristen Merrifield. I'm the CEO of the Alliance, and we're so happy to have everyone here with us this afternoon. The beginnings of this event actually go back to last year when we were in the midst still of everything happening with COVID and how it was changing our world. And I remember talking to my team and saying that despite the fact that this pandemic has obviously had a negative, substantial impact on our community and especially the nonprofit sector, I thought it was important that we still take a moment to pause, reflect, and recognize and celebrate the organizations and stories that have actually given us tremendous hope and inspiration over the past year and a half. So before we get started today, I would like to thank both Governor Doug Ducey and Senator Kristen for offering remarks to start today's event. First, we'll hear from Governor Ducey.
Hello, this is Governor Ducey. Welcome to the Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits' first annual Inspiration Event. Now more than ever, it's important that we see and hear stories of hope and inspiration. Each of you here today and the entire nonprofit sector have been a critical part of keeping Arizonans safe, connected, and cared for over the past year. You've all gone above and beyond to make a difference in the lives of underrepresented and marginalized groups throughout the state. On behalf of Arizona, I want to say thank you. Of course, the challenges from this past year spared no one, and our nonprofits were no exception. While these organizations were taking care of others, they had their own struggles, yet they asked for little in return. Here in Arizona, we leave no one behind, and that includes our nonprofit organizations. It's why last fall I was eager to allocate over $700,000 to 19 organizations across the state that support individuals and families in need. And we're not stopping there. As we emerge from the pandemic, we're going to continue to support our nonprofits in any way we can. Just last month, we allocated over $500,000 to 13 organizations in Arizona that offer mental health support and services. This past year has been so tough on Arizonans, and it's critical that we give them the help they need. I'm grateful to all our nonprofits for their dedication to the health, wellness, and quality of life in Arizona. I also want to give a special shout out to those being recognized today. Congratulations. We are all very proud of the work you do each and every day to support our communities. Thank you.
Thank you to Governor Ducey, and now we will hear from Senator Sinema.
Hi, I'm Kristen, Arizona's senior U.S. Senator. I'm sorry that we can't be together in person, but thank you, Kristen Merrifield and the Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits for inviting me to join you today. During the pandemic, I held regular calls with Arizona nonprofits, veteran service providers, and everyday families. These conversations helped shape policy solutions and informed how my team and I work to help Arizonans access relief and resources. Thanks to your advocacy at the Alliance, I worked to ensure that certain small business programs were also open to nonprofits. And while nonprofits are all too familiar with facing challenges with limited resources, the public health and economic impacts of COVID-19 tested all of us. I'm incredibly grateful to the nonprofits in Arizona that were so innovative in finding new ways to deliver services and resources to our communities, and for your resiliency at a time when events and fundraising were so limited. Arizona's nonprofit sector plays a crucial role in supporting Arizona's economy, our performing arts community, and our underserved youth access educational opportunities. Nonprofit leaders in Arizona have doubled down on services to the communities most impacted by the coronavirus, including those at risk of depression and suicide and homelessness, and Arizonans in need of addiction services. I'm proud of the leadership our nonprofits have shown in stepping up to the challenges Arizona faced during the pandemic, and that has made our road to recovery possible. Thank you again to the leaders here today, and I look forward to continuing our work together.
I'd like to thank both Senator Sinema and Governor Ducey for taking the time to share those messages with us and for their continued support of the nonprofit community. Now, as many of you know, in March, we asked for nominations of inspirational organizations. and we received dozens of nominations for recognition. We asked for your inspirational stories in the areas of innovation, resilience, advocacy, and philanthropy. Our internal committee spent quite a bit of time reviewing these submissions and finally chose 8 organizations, 4 of which are being recognized today and 4 of which were recognized at other Alliance events throughout the month, such as our sector check-ins and our monthly webinar series. I'd like to once again recognize those organizations that have already been recognized: the Veterans Heritage Project, School Connect, Advocacy 31-9, and the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank. So congratulations to those organizations, and feel free to share your messages and congrats in the chat for these amazing organizations. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Michael Berry, Director of Capacity Building for the Alliance, to introduce our first nominee being recognized today.
Thank you, Kristen, and welcome to everybody. I'm thrilled that we're finally here together and we're finally recognizing these organizations. I'd like to start by introducing Karina Ye-Hilliard, our Manager of Marketing and Events, who will be speaking on behalf of parents of addicted loved ones. Karina?
Thanks, Michael. Our next category of recognition is that of resilience. The spotlight is on parents of addicted loved ones, and the nomination comes to us from Dinah Brooks of PAL. As those of you who have been following our inspirational stories this month know, many of our nominations come from employees of the organization being honored, but the source of the inspiration comes from elsewhere outside the group, and the PAL story is no exception. PAL started in Phoenix in 2006 as a weekly support group, but due to intense demand grew quickly and became a nonprofit in 2015, fully supported by volunteers. The first paid staff member was hired in 2018, CEO Executive Director Kim Humphrey. And now, just a few years later, PAL has 167 meetings in 41 states. The genesis of the organization is a simple but critical one. While individuals were receiving attention and treatment for their addictions, there is little support for parents and family members faced with the challenges and stressors of dealing with an addicted loved one. Parents of addicted loved ones is unique in that it depends on trained volunteer facilitators to lead free weekly meetings based on an evidence-based curriculum studied and verified by NAU. Participants are also provided time to share their experiences and cross-talk with one another in a format not widely used by similar groups. The key to the success of PAL is the more than 300 facilitators, 70 of whom are based in Arizona. Those volunteers are on the front lines helping parents and are, in Dinah's words, heroes who are changing and saving lives. PAL groups normally meet in person, but with the pandemic, they found they needed a new way to keep their support networks functioning. At that time, Zoom was not a word in everyday usage, and while some of the facilitators were comfortable in using the virtual format, it was a huge technological stretch for others. Within weeks of many aspects of the US shutting down, PAL was able to train the facilitators, who in turn helped their parent attendees with the new skill and gamely found ways to reach out and keep the personal relationships going. And as you can see from our slides, at least in the case of this California facilitator, PAL entered the season of improvisation using laundry baskets to get the laptop at just the right angle. Other facilitators offered extra meetings through the season of COVID or reached out to call parents outside of meeting times because as the pandemic intensified, so did drug and alcohol usage and overdose deaths. As Dinah mentioned in her nomination, this change and all the other changes were all done in the name of helping others. So we'd like to congratulate and thank PAL, but especially the volunteer facilitators nationwide for not allowing the pandemic to stand in the way of their life-saving work and for providing an inspiring example of resilience.
And now I'd like to turn it over to Dinah Brooks, Director of Communications for Parents of Addicted Loved Ones.
Absolutely. We certainly thank you for the recognition, and I'm hoping that we can get a video of this. I'm actually doing a little pretend video here on my phone to share with facilitators all over the state, but even more than that, all over the country. This is an amazing association to be involved with. And we're so grateful for the Alliance, because I tell you, last year, the way the Alliance adapted and gave us information was just priceless. But this is going to be a wonderful way to say thank you to our facilitators by being able to share this with them. I wish they could have all been on the call today. Thank you so much.
Dinah, thank you. And for our next category, I'd like to introduce Carla Cruz Silva, board member of Scholarships A to Z. Carla?
Hi, everyone. All right. So again, my name is Carla Cruz Silva, and I have been a volunteer with Scholarships AZ for several years and recently have the privilege to join their board of directors. So Scholarships AZ was started 12 years ago by undocumented individuals and allies as a way of providing resources and support to students who are undocumented and wanted to pursue higher education. Scholarships AZ is dedicated to the idea that everyone deserves access to higher education, regardless of immigration status. Approximately 2,000 undocumented youth graduate from Arizona high schools every single year, with most lacking the institutional support, guidance, and supportive networks that they deserve. I volunteered for the organization for several years through what is known as the Immigrant Scholarship Hustle, also known as ISH, and have had the privilege of working with a number of students to assist them in filling out and editing different scholarship applications so that they can attend institutions such as Pima Community College, the University of Arizona, and Grand Canyon University. What is important to remember about the work of Scholarships AZ is that for reasons that are likely obvious, it relies entirely on private donations as funding for its funding, as government funding is simply out of the question many times. Most fundraising is from individuals in the community who provide as little as $10 per month to keep the mission going, with many making one-time donations. Working with undocumented youth, while extremely rewarding, carries its own set of challenges that are not always apparent to those who are not familiar with the work of Scholarships AZ. And COVID brought an entirely new set of challenges this last year and a half. One of the things I found so inspiring about the work of Scholarships AZ over the past year was its ability to not only pivot to changing its funding structure, but also how it continues to build a sense of community among students. In addition to a number of Zoom hangouts, Scholarships AZ brought its community together for a socially distant picnic so that we could all be together safely. Scholarships AZ is also almost fully volunteer-led, with its executive director being hired only 1 year ago and being the only paid full-time staff. But I have to say, one of the things that really brought me a new level of inspiration was the fact that the organization was able to meet the needs of its community by fundraising over $65,000 for COVID relief funds. Our students were not eligible for government COVID relief fund, and many were still in need of money to pay for things like food, rent, bills, and of course, tuition. Our community was able to fundraise to assist in meeting the needs of our what we call Scholarships AZ Village and working together. So I'm honored to be part of the Scholarships organization and its board. And I want to congratulate them for all the work that they have done and to recognize the critical and powerful work that they will continue to do in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. And now I'd like to ask Carolina Silva, Executive Director of Scholarships AZ, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Carolina Silva. My pronouns are she, hers, ella. And truly, Scholarships AZ is a really great representation of what can happen when undocumented youth take the lead and educators and community members support, because we were actually started as a scholarship list when one undocumented student created a list that was open for students regardless of immigration status, and she went to a counselor at Pima Community College and said, I want to share this list. And from that, we became a community organization who now leads programming. We also have spaces for educators who are really active in our school supporting undocumented students. And that's where we recruited Carla, who's amazing. So I want to thank the Alliance for hosting this amazing event and recognizing all the nonprofits doing critical work in our community. I want to thank Carla for, of course, nominating us and being part of our community. And last but not least, I would like to thank the immigrant youth who made our organization possible. They are the reason, they're how we were funded. They're the reason we continue to exist. And as most of y'all already heard, they are all volunteers. This work would not happen if it wasn't for immigrant youth leading the fight to ensure that every student has access to a higher education, regardless of immigration status. Thank you.
Carolina, thank you. And now I'd like to ask Carly Fleege, Public Affairs Associate for Hamilton Consulting, to speak about the GEM Foundation. Carly?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carly Fleege. I've been involved with the GEM Foundation since 2017, shortly after I lost my little sister to suicide. I met Ben and Denise, the founders of the GEM Foundation, through our shared common bond as survivors of suicide loss. They sadly lost their son, Jacob Edward Makovsky, to suicide the year before my sister's death, and vowed to do whatever they could to ensure that no one else lost a loved one in the same way. Jake's story is sadly not uncommon in Arizona. Prior to his death, he had been hospitalized twice in under 2 months for suicidal ideation. Both times, Jake was released in only 5 days. The doctors and his parents knew Jake wasn't ready to be released, but the insurance company refused to pay for the needed care. The cost to pay for a facility without insurance was too much, so Jake was released at the end of October 2015. Not even 3 months later, he completed suicide. Ben and Denise knew other families were struggling with getting access to medically necessary care and wanted to address this issue at the legislative level in order to ensure that they had the broadest possible impact. As a professional lobbyist, I was honored to use my knowledge and experience to help Denise and Ben in their journey. I agreed to help them navigate the Arizona legislature and keep them apprised of legislation associated with suicide prevention, including the Mitch Warnock Act, which required suicide prevention awareness training in Arizona schools. In the summer of 2019, the governor's office contacted the GEM Foundation and expressed interest in finding a way to bring mental health parity to Arizona. For those of you not familiar with the concept of parity, it's simply the idea that insurance companies must treat mental health the same as physical health. We were ecstatic to learn that the governor wanted this to be a priority for the 2020 legislative session. What I have taken as an inspiration from my time with Ben and Denise is their selfless dedication, energy, and focus on bringing what is now known as Jake's Law to life. While this story is not necessarily one that happened during the recent pandemic, it reaches its most important point just prior to the US shutting down. In preparation for the 2020 session, Ben and Denise worked tirelessly for months through a series of stakeholder meetings, including with insurance companies. What will always stay with me was a very intense 2 weeks in which Ben and Denise publicly relived the details of the worst day of their lives 4 separate times before 4 separate legislative committee hearings. This doesn't even include the countless times they shared Jake's story during meetings with members of the legislature and interviews with media. We can never thank them enough for the emotional price they paid to help others. What will also stay with me is that on March 3rd, 2020, Governor Ducey signed Jake's Law and brought mental health parity to the state of Arizona. Jake's Law increases access to treatment by ensuring compliance with the federal mental health parity laws. Please remember that in the US, we lose over 47,000 people to suicide every year. We can fill Chase Field with those numbers. Suicide also remains the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 14, 15 to 24, and 25 to 34. According to the 2021 State of Mental Health in America report, Arizona ranks 49th in the country for youth mental health, meaning we have a higher prevalence of mental illness with lower rates of access to care. 12.1% of Arizona youth are on private insurance that doesn't cover mental health, and nearly 60% of Arizona youth with major depression didn't receive mental health treatment. The average stay for kids that are hospitalized for suicidal ideation and mental illness is only 3 to 5 days. Many are discharged long before they are ready. In Arizona, child suicides increased by 32% from 2016 to 2017. 68% of suicide deaths occurred in children 15 to 17 years of age, and on average, we lose someone to suicide every 7 hours. Most importantly, please keep in mind that COVID has had a tremendous impact on everyone's emotional and mental health, and that this legislation and what it requires came just in time to treat people and save their lives. I'd like to recognize the GEM Foundation, and especially Ben and Denise, for building upon their deep personal tragedy to create a better Arizona and ensure that all of us have a chance to live better lives, because there is no health without mental health.
I thought I unmuted myself. My apologies. Carly, thank you for that. And now I'd like to ask Denise and Ben Denslow, joining us from, as I understand it, a mobile home somewhere on vacation in North Carolina, to say a few words. And Denise?
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're in an RV right now, so I apologize for the lighting. Thank you, Carly. You are such a blessing to us.
We could not have done it without Carly.
No. I want to thank the Alliance. You guys have been a huge help. Even before the pandemic, we were members, and then as we were trying to traverse the pandemic, you just trying to keep us apprised of everything that was happening, trying to help us navigate. So we really appreciate it. We want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to everyone who helped us. Carly, our coalition. Legislation is not easy. Change is never easy, but it does not happen in a vacuum. And we had an amazing team of people in our coalition, the Arizona Coalition for Insurance Parity. So I want to thank everybody in that group. We couldn't have done it without them. And all of the people that took time out to come and testify and share their stories with the legislation, and everyone who, contacted their senators and congressmen and women. We're just very appreciative for everyone, because like I said, this doesn't happen in a vacuum, and we could not have done this without everybody. So we're very, very grateful. Thank you.
And we got to thank Senator Brophy McGee for sponsoring the bill in the first place. I mean, she was amazing, incredible, and it was there from the get-go. So,
and Governor Ducey's office.
And Governor Ducey's office.
Yes, thank you so much.
And like Carly said, they signed the bill, or signed it into law 2 days before the Capitol shut down. So that's that close. But thank you. We really do appreciate it.
Ben, Denise, thank you very much. And thanks for taking time from your vacation and for setting yourselves up in that RV. Everything looks great. You might want to think about turning it into your permanent office.
There you go.
And with that, I would like to turn it over to my good colleague and friend, Robin Hanson, Director at the Alliance, to speak on behalf of the Grease Paint Youth Theater. Robin?
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's my honor to share our next story, which comes to us courtesy of Lori Mann, a board member at Grease Paint Youth Theater. Lori's day job is a CPA. She's been working behind the scenes with Grease Paint for about 1.5 years, as she told us, ensuring, among other things, that the bills continue to get paid. When we asked her how she got involved with Grease Paint, she told us her daughter, now grown and off to college, was a theater girl a number of years ago. And having experienced Grease Paint as a parent, she was so impressed by their work that she decided she wanted it to continue to be part of her life. As with many of the stories we've heard today and have continued to hear about over the past year, March of 2020 brought the everyday activities of Grease Paint to a halt. The auditions, the rehearsals, the performances, everything that make up Grease Paint's reason for being. But in the spirit of the old Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney movies, Grease Paint and its longtime executive director, Maureen Watson, did not allow the pandemic to prevent them from putting on a show. What continues to inspire Lori about the story of Grease Paint over the last year is not only the spirit of service to the students, to the community, but the level of innovation that the organization brought to its activities. When it became impossible to perform in person, Maureen and her team of volunteers developed a drive-in movie theater, but for live theater. Using microphones for the cast, the theater performed for an audience completely in their cars. When it became possible to perform outside, Maureen and company set up in Grease Paint's parking lot and performed to small, socially distanced audiences set up in circles made up of lawn chairs. The company then graduated to their outdoor stage, built on Grease Paint's grounds and licensed by the city of Scottsdale. And there they began to perform plays, showcases, and radio plays as musicals were thought to increase the transmission of the virus. We should note that like other youth theaters, Grease Paint offers an annual summer camp, which, as you know, couldn't possibly go forward in the 2020 environment. So to overcome the by now familiar obstacles, the company developed Zoom summer camp and hand-delivered goodie bags to the student campers. They weren't filled with only treats, but they had props and related materials to make the experience of participating in a performing arts camp fun and effective, despite the absence of human contact. When things started to return slowly to normal, Grease Paint changed along with the environment. In the early months of 2021, when it became possible for small groups of people together in a closed environment, Maureen and company decided to use the pandemic and its restrictions as a way to get everyone involved: the students, the parents, the donors, the audience members. And in order to ensure that the audience could be properly socially distanced, the performance space needed, well, more space. So the Grease Paint community removed all of its 190 aging and fixed seats and got rid of them to make way for fold-out chairs. Now the theater had a way to allow its audiences to abide and attend live performances, but do so in a socially distanced and responsible manner. We should also note that Grease Paint is not an organization that would allow the absence of that permanent furniture to stand in the way of planning for its upcoming Full House in September. Just as Maureen and the volunteers continue to innovate throughout 2020, the Grease Paint parents raised the necessary funds for the replacement of 190 brand new seats. We are so pleased to recognize Grease Paint Youth Theater for their innovation throughout the past year, and we look forward to years of future performances in those very comfortable seats.
Thank you, Robin. And with that, I'd like to ask Maureen Watson, Executive Director for Grease Paint Youth Theater, to say a few words.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you to everyone. Thank you to the Alliance for Arizona Nonprofits for this recognition of our hard work throughout this unprecedented year. We are thrilled to be a part of the Alliance, and we are genuinely moved to be included in a group of organizations such as those honored here today. Thank you so much. We were fortunate to have the City of Scottsdale be our partner in coming up with options that were safe for all the participants, and especially to the team at the special events offices. They were helpful and supportive at all times of our efforts. And in addition, we've had the support of many organizations like everyone else. We couldn't have stayed open and continued working without the support of Scottsdale Arts, the Virginia Piper Foundation, Arizona Commission on the Arts, the Scottsdale Charros, the Arizona Community Foundation. Every single organization assisted us in being able to stay open, continue employing artistic staff, entertaining audiences safely, and most importantly, giving our kids and the youth in the Valley just a little semblance of normalcy in the chaos of what was 2019 and 2020 in their young lives. I personally also wish to thank our remarkably nimble board of directors and our parent board, who gave unstintingly of their time, often their money and their talents, and nothing could have been done without each and every one of them. We are really proud of what we were able to accomplish during the pandemic, and we have just within the last few weeks begun welcoming back children live to summer programs and teens to auditions and rehearsals. You can probably hear them if I open this door at their summer camp programs. We are excited to be open in September to full houses once again, and we're going to build on the strength of the community here at Grease Paint. So thank you very much on behalf of everyone here at the theater. We are honored to be a part of today's event. Thank you.
Maureen, thank you. And for those of you who have joined us today, you'll know that this is the first time we've ever done this. So we've come to the end of the primary part of the program. And before I turn it over to my CEO, I'd just like to thank everybody for your patience and for your time and for your endurance and resilience and innovation. But I also don't think that anyone's going to mind getting a few minutes back. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to my boss, CEO of the Alliance, Kristen Merrifield.
Thanks, Michael. want to take a moment to thank our team too, Michael, Angela, and just so many of our other team members that helped make this possible. It's just an honor to serve all of you, and these are just examples of some of the many stories of inspiration that happened throughout the past year and a half. And you know, nonprofits are resilient, and COVID and everything that our community has experienced is just another example of why it's so important that you and your teams and your board of directors, your volunteers, why you do what you do every day. And so I'd like to take a moment and just congratulate again our recognized organizations today, Parents of Addicted Loved Ones, the GEM Foundation, Scholarships A to Z, and Grease Paint Youth Theater. I think we can all agree that they are wonderful representations of the best of the nonprofit sector, selfless, focused, and committed to the completion of their mission, no matter the obstacles. Before we close, I did want to make sure to mention that we do have another amazing event coming up in August, and registration is now open for our 2021 annual Engage Conference. And early bird pricing is in effect until June 30th. So we're going to drop the link in the chat for that. And that conference will be held again, just as we did last year, every Wednesday morning during the month of August. And again, it will be available completely virtual, so you can attend from wherever makes sense, even if you're in your RV in North Carolina, or you're at your organization, or you're still working remotely, you can hopefully join us. And so I hope you've enjoyed today's event. We sure have enjoyed spotlighting all of these amazing organizations, and we're thrilled for this opportunity. And like Michael said, we will give you a few minutes back of your day, and we hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much.